Good morning, this is Ashley Hitchcock reporting for Good Morning Boston. The French and Indian War was a colonial extension of the 7-Year War that ravaged Europe from about 1756 to 1763. French and Indian War became a big cause of the American Revolution. Britain needed money to pay for its war debts. The King and Parliament believed they had the right to tax the colonies.
Today I will talk about the Sugar Act, also known as the American Revenue Act of 1764. The Sugar Act places a tax on imported sugar imported from the West Indies. The Sugar Act represents a significant change in policy.
The new tax was imposed on all American colonists and required them to pay a tax on every piece of printed paper they used. Ships, papers, legal documents, licenses, newspapers, other publicans, and even playing cards were taxed.
City of Boston. The city of Boston, Massachusetts, which is one of the most controversial kind of colonial cities in the East Coast here.
Propaganda is one of the major causes of this Revolutionary War because of an American artist drawing pictures of the Boston Massacre.
A brutal scuffle between 9 British soldiers and some angry citizens has just taken place. They call it the Boston Massacre. 3 people have been instantly killed while 8 others are severely wounded. The fight began when about 50 Boston citizens attacked Captain Thomas Pearson. 2 soldiers fired guns into the crowd. A town meeting has been called from Boston citizens demanding to leave, while Pearson and the 2 shooters are on trial.
Merchants everywhere have given up on selling anything from Britain to the colonies, except for merchants in Boston. The Sons of Liberty and a few others had planned what they called the Boston Tea Party. They threw 342 chests of tea overboard.
The Out Transportation was adopted by the Second Continental Congress on July 5, 1775, in the final attempt to avoid a full-on war.
The Army was formed after an outbreak of the American Revolutionary War by the colonies that became the United States of America. Volunteers for the Army came from every colony except Georgia. The Army was formed to represent the American interests and challenge British control.
And today we are talking about the Continental Congress. For those who didn't know what the Continental Congress was, a convention of delegates called together from the 13 colonists that became the governing body of the United States during the American Revolution.
The colonists here are very angry because of the new laws that King George made. These laws are called the Intolerable Acts. Because of these acts, Boston colonists are boycotting any and all imported goods from Britain.
Today I'm going to be talking about the Loyalists. The Loyalists are a part of the Revolutionary War, and they were American colonists that remained loyal to British Empire and the British monarchy. The militia was an army fighting force. The militia was also full-time members of the fighting noble class. The militiamen were the ones fighting for independence for the British.
And I'm here to tell you that Minutemen were a small, hand-picked elite force that were required to be highly mobile and assemble quickly, typically 25 years of age or younger. They held themselves to turn out rapidly at a minute's notice for emergencies, hence their name.
As a group, the Patriots presented They included lawyers like John Adams and Alexander Hamilton, planters like Thomas Jefferson and George Mason, merchants like Alexander McDonald, and ordinary farmers like Daniel Shays and Joseph Plum Martin.
Here I am with Robert Newman. Good morning, Robert. What was the last thing you have heard from Paul himself?
Good morning, Tristan. Last thing Paul said to me was the plan to signal the colonists how to the British were coming.
How did he address this message to you?
He said, and I quote, "One if by land, two if by sea."
In what blood was spilled and the Minutemen had successfully defended their weapons, now a peaceful solution did not seem to be a possibility. These battles helped unite the colonies against King George III and were the start of the Revolutionary War. Let's go to Brian.
Many writers and historians have attributed the first shot at the Battle of Lexington, which occurred earlier that day and was the first official battle of the Revolution.
One day after the Battle of Bunker Hill. Did you know that this battle was actually taking place on Breed Hill, not Bunker? We the colonists were in lead, but then we ran out of ammo.
Even though we lost, we gained strength and confidence. We will be ready for future battles ahead of us.
Thomas Jefferson was a delegate from Virginia. Although he had never been an actual soldier in the Revolutionary War, he was a patriot who had fought for the colonists' independence with his words. He drafted the Declaration of Independence. Thomas Jefferson is considered one of the founding fathers of the United States.
He became king during the French and Indian War. Only some of the colonists liked him. The loyalists liked him, and the patriots opposed him. He taxed the colonists because they didn't have enough money.
The preamble explains why the Continental Congress drew up the Declaration. The preamble to the United States Constitution is a brief introductory statement of the Constitution's fundamental purposes and guiding principles.
The third part of the Declaration lists the colonists' complaints against the British government and is the list of grievances if you do not know what they are.
This is a happy day for Virginia. George Mason IV and James Madison have just drafted the Declaration of Rights. The Declaration of Rights helps us to rebel against the government if they don't let us have a say in it.
The Declaration of Independence is announcing that the colonies are separating from Great Britain and uniting together to become their own country and a half. It declares the 13 British colonies on the east coast of North America independent.
Representatives of the American people declared the colonies' independence from Great Britain. Most members signed the document on August 2nd, 1776.